December 18, 1944, 0347 hours. Hurtgen Forest, Belgium. Oberfeldwebel Klaus Steiner pressed his frost-numbed cheek against the wooden stock of his Carabiner 98K, peering through the pre-dawn darkness at the American positions 200 meters distant. The veteran Wehrmacht sniper had been awake for 19 hours, his body trembling not from cold, but from the amphetamine tablets, his third Pervitin dose in 12 hours, that the sanitator distributed like communion wafers. Behind him, in the frozen bunker, his squad shared 2 tins of horsemeat paste and argued over who would get the last cigarette butt. Steiner's rifle contained exactly 7 rounds, 7 carefully hoarded 7.92 mm cartridges that had to count, because the last ammunition resupply had arrived 3 weeks ago, and the next, if the American fighter bombers allowed any convoy through, wasn't expected until after Christmas. Then he heard it. The unmistakable clack-clack-clack of an American submachine gun firing in casual bursts across the frozen earth. Not aimed fire, not suppressive fire, just noise. A GI emptying a magazine into the tree line for no tactical reason Steiner could discern. Through his scope, in the gathering light, he watched the American soldier toss aside the ugly, stamped metal weapon. It looked like a child's toy, like something welded together in a shed, and simply pick up another from a wooden crate stenciled U.S. Ordnance. The American wasn't even an officer, just a private, judging by his rank insignia, treating weapons like Reichsmark notes in 1923, worthless, disposable, infinite. This is not a story about marksmanship or tactical doctrine. It is not about the relative merits of German engineering precision versus American industrial pragmatism. This is a story about mathematics so overwhelming, about production capacity so obscene, that it transformed warfare into an equation with only one possible solution. By December 1944, the German Wehrmacht was rationing ammunition at the squad level, while American forces were literally disposing of weapons in the field because carrying them back to supply dumps required more effort than requisitioning new ones. The M3 grease gun, officially the United States submachine gun, caliber .45 M3, cost $20 to manufacture and took 3.5 man-hours to produce. The German MP40, its closest equivalent, cost $57 and required 27 man-hours of machining. But the cost differential was merely arithmetic. The production differential was apocalyptic. Klaus Steiner had entered the Heer in 1939 believing in German industrial supremacy. The newsreels, the Wochenschau films, showed gleaming factories in the Ruhr, forests of smokestacks producing the Wunderwaffen that would deliver victory. His weapon, the Kar 98K, was a masterpiece of Mauser engineering, every component machined to tolerances measured in hundredths of millimeters, the walnut stock hand-fitted, the bolt cycling with the smooth precision of a Swiss watch. It was a weapon that demanded respect, maintenance, and love. Steiner cleaned his rifle every night, even when his hands shook with exhaustion, even when the temperature dropped so low that the gun oil froze to paste. By the winter of 1944, that pride had curdled into something darker. Ammunition arrived in unmarked crates, the cartridges often corroded, sometimes misfiring, occasionally exploding in the chamber. His company's MP40 submachine guns, 37 of them at full strength, had dwindled to 11 functional weapons. Parts were scavenged from the dead. Firing pins were bartered like gold cigarettes. In his journal, dated November 3, 1944, Steiner wrote, "Heute haben wir seine Patronen pro Mann erhalten. Seine, der Amerikaner verschießt mehr in einer Sekunde, als wir vor einen Tag haben. Today we receive 10 cartridges per man. 10. The American fires more in 1 second than we have for a day." The ideology demanded faith in German quality over quantity, in the superiority of the trained lancer over the mongrel American conscript with his disposable weapons and disposable tactics. But ideology, Steiner was learning, could not be chambered in a rifle. Belief could not be fired downrange. On September 12, 1944, at the Guide Lamp Division of General Motors Corporation in Anderson, Indiana, production supervisor George Venturi watched the 50,000th M3 grease gun roll off the assembly line. 50,000 units in just 6 months of production. The weapon had been designed specifically for mass production by the Inland Manufacturing Division, based on a simple directive from Army Ordnance. Create a submachine gun so cheap and simple that it could be manufactured by any American factory with sheet metal stamping capacity. No milling machines required, no skilled machinists needed. Just stamped steel, spot welds, and a design so crude that captured German officers initially refused to believe it was a frontline weapon, assuming instead it was some kind of training mockery. The statistics told a story that Wehrmacht intelligence refused to believe even when presented with photographic evidence. The Guide Lamp Division alone produced 15,000 M3 grease guns per month by November 1944. Total U.S. production of submachine guns, including the Thompson M1A1 and the M3, exceeded 2.5 million units by war's end. Germany, by contrast, produced approximately 1.1 million MP40s during the entire war. The American arsenal was producing in 3 weeks what Germany had manufactured in 6 years. Private First Class Thomas Riddell, 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment, 1st Infantry Division, scrawled in a letter home dated December 10, 1944. "Mom, you wouldn't believe how much stuff we got. I went through 3 grease guns today, left one in a half-track, dropped one in the mud and didn't even look for it, and got issued a new one in about 5 minutes. The armorer just opened a crate and handed it over, still packed in cosmoline, didn't even ask my name." The M3 embodied American industrial philosophy. Make it fast, make it cheap, make it overwhelming. Each weapon cost less than a case of sea rations. The U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps calculated that it was more economical to abandon damaged M3s in the field than to establish repair depots. Technical Manual TM 9-1005-208-10, issued October 1944, contained no section on armorer-level repairs because the weapon was designed to be disposable. When it jammed or broke, you requisitioned another. Supply sergeants stocked them like toilet paper. By December 1944, the 626th Ordnance Ammunition Company was distributing 250,000 rounds of .45 ACP ammunition daily to units in the Ardennes sector alone, enough to provide every rifleman, whether armed with an M3 or not, with more than 30 rounds per day. German units in the same sector received approximately 1.2 rounds per rifleman per day when they received resupply at all. The moment came for Klaus Steiner on December 21, 1944, during the German counteroffensive later called the Battle of the Bulge. His unit overran an American supply depot near Malmedy, hastily abandoned, equipment scattered across frozen ground. Steiner expected to find the usual spoils, food, cigarettes, and perhaps fuel. Instead, he found weapons, hundreds of them. M1 Garand rifles stacked like cordwood. Crates of M3 grease guns still sealed with factory tape. Pyramids of ammunition cans stenciled with production dates from the previous week. What broke him wasn't the quantity, though the quantity was staggering. Enough small arms to equip 3 German divisions. What shattered his understanding of the war was the casualness of it all. These weren't carefully inventoried, serial-numbered weapons locked in armories and signed out under strict accountability. They were just there, piled in the snow, half buried in mud. One crate of M3s had been used as a stepping stool, the top weapons dented by boot prints, and no one had bothered to move them. An American soldier had carved "Kilroy was here" into the wooden stock of an M1 carbine before abandoning it. Steiner picked up one of the M3 grease guns, felt its stamped steel lightness and its crude spot welds that would have shamed any German Waffenmeister. He pulled the bolt back. It rattled loosely in its receiver, no precision, no craftsmanship, and found a loaded 30-round magazine still inserted. The American hadn't even unloaded it before walking away. 30 rounds of .45 ACP ammunition, each cartridge worth its weight in hope to a German soldier, left behind like trash. Klaus Steiner survived the war. His unit, the 277th Volksgrenadier Division, did not. By February 1945, casualties and desertions had reduced it to battalion strength, then company strength, then nothing. Absorbed into other units, its identity dissolved in the final collapse. Steiner was captured by British forces near Hamburg on May 4, 1945, carrying a Kar 98K with no ammunition and weighing 108 pounds. The final mathematics of the M3 grease gun program tell the story with brutal clarity. The United States produced 655,363 M3 and M3A1 grease guns between 1943 and 1945. Germany produced 1,047,000 MP-40 submachine guns between 1938 and 1945. 7 years of production. America manufactured 62% of Germany's total war production of submachine guns in 24 months. The cost differential was even more devastating. Total German expenditure on MP-40 production exceeded $59 million. Total American expenditure on M3 production, $13.10 million, for a larger number of weapons. The United States spent less money producing more guns, and did it in 1/3 the time, while simultaneously producing millions of M1 Garands, millions of M1 carbines, millions of Browning automatic rifles, and millions of sidearms. In a 1953 interview for the Bundesarchiv, Klaus Steiner was asked whether the German soldier was more skilled, more disciplined, and better trained than his American counterpart. His response? Vielleicht, aber es spielt keine Rolle. Sie hatten 1000 Kugeln für jede unserer. Sie hatten 1000 Waffen für jede unserer. Mut bedeutet nichts, wenn der Feind dich unter Bergen von Stahl begrabt. Wir haben nicht gegen Soldaten gekämpft. Wir haben gegen Fabriken gekämpft. Und Fabriken sterben nicht, perhaps, but it doesn't matter. They had 1,000 bullets for each of ours. They had 1,000 weapons for each of ours. Courage means nothing when the enemy buries you under mountains of steel. We did not fight soldiers. We fought factories, and factories do not die.